I'm Sam. Welcome to Brickwall Unplugged. Today I'm doing an Alex Garland tier list because it's topical, it's timely. Warfare is currently in theaters, and I've seen it, and it's going to be the last movie that we talk about. Other than Warfare, down here at the bottom, everything else is randomly placed. I have everything that Garland has directed included in this tier list, and I have most of the films and projects that he has written. I say and projects because most of these are films, but there's also 2 video games and a TV limited series, a miniseries. There are a couple of things he's written that I haven't included here. 2 of them are novels that he wrote that were adapted into films that he didn't actually write the screenplay for, so they're not really relevant anyway. Like The Beach, even though that was his collaborator Danny Boyle adapted that book. But there's one screenplay of his that I haven't covered, which is a film that I just wasn't familiar with until right before I started recording. Never Let Me Go. Yeah, I don't have Never Let Me Go included either, but whatever. Anyway, starting off with 28 Days Later. This is the zombie film that you can most fairly credit with popularizing the fast zombie. And I don't know, people like to split hairs and go, oh, they're not zombies, they're infected with rage. Whatever. They're, for all intents and purposes, they're zombies. The rules are a little different, a little more, they're not that different, let's be honest. But it is a thing where, they can die out from starvation. If you get their blood or saliva or whatever in your system, that's enough to turn you versus, a bite, which isn't always the case in other zombie fare. But anyway, they're zombies, come on. 28 Days Later is an excellent zombie film. I know some people don't like the whole fast zombie thing. They prefer the slower, shambling zombie. I think they both have a place. I think the zombies in this are more threatening, more intense, scarier, one might say, than the zombies in a lot of other horror movies. If you don't like the whole fast zombie thing, then I think it's almost a thing where it's almost like how the Bourne movies popularized the whole shaky cam, quick cut thing, which led to a lot of bad movies, but the Bourne movies themselves actually do it pretty well for the most part. 28 Days Later, excellent. It got a sequel with 28 Weeks Later, but Garland and Danny Boyle both did not return for that one. That's why it feels so different. But they are both returning for the upcoming 28 Years Later, which I'm very excited for. The trailer looks great. And I actually like Weeks Later. I know some people think 28 Days Later is great, Weeks Later sucks. I think Weeks Later is fun too, though I'll admit I haven't seen it in a very long time. I don't know if it would hold up quite so much. I've rewatched 28 Days Later a lot more than I've seen Weeks Later. Days Later, though, it's excellent. Great apocalyptic world building. They do so well at conveying the sense that London is empty. It's pretty crazy, some of the shots they got, especially early on when Cillian Murphy's just kind of wandering around empty London. And the story behind that is that they just shot it really early in the morning before anyone was out and about. That's all there was to it. They didn't block it off or anything because they couldn't afford to. But it works. Great little production design choices too, like the flyers everywhere, the trash on the ground. It really sells it in a very simple, economical kind of way. The violence is really well done. The themes are very you could say simple, but clear. The point comes across very well. The characters are well defined and effective, and it's just such a lean and mean kind of movie, and it's great at what it's going for. I think it's an A tier. I don't know if I would go all the way to S with it. It's close, honestly. It's one of those A plus kind of movies, but I don't think it quite goes to S. I think I'm going to leave it an A. I will say you have to be on board for its visual aesthetic to be extra grungy. It's one of those movies shot on early digital cameras, mini DV type cameras that look pretty bad. This one, honestly, it purely just adds to the feel of it for me. It's kind of how some movies kind of look a little better on VHS, even though it is technically an inferior visual format. That grunginess adds something to it, and that's definitely the case with 28 Days Later. Okay, next up is Dredd. I feel like people don't even associate Dredd with Alex Garland, but he is one of the writers of it. He's not the sole writer because, of course, it's an IP film. It's an adaptation. A million times better than that Stallone Judge Dredd from what I've seen. This movie kicks ass. It's very similar to The Raid. It's a cop guy making his way up a big high-rise apartment building, killing all the baddies on his way to the top, where there's a final villain up top. It's one-to-one the structure of The Raid. Not that I think it ripped it off. I think they were probably in production around the same time. or at least the raid hadn't made it to the U.S. by the time Dredd was made. But yeah, very similar. A lot of parallels there. Dredd is it's great. It's so stylish. It's also very contained. You can tell that it's perhaps a little bit lower budgeted than a project like this maybe typically has, like mostly owing to it being in one building. But there are there are some macro shots early on where they show like sweeping over the city, and you do get a sense of like, oh, this is one story in a city with tons of stories. Like this is one building in a city where this same shit is probably happening in every other building in the entire city, which is one, good for world building, but two, really sets up the idea of the sequel that people really wanted for this movie that it never got. And in this day and age when we're getting reboots and sequels constantly, it's only a matter of time before we get another Judge Dredd thing. The question is, will it be a continue of this one with Karl Urban coming back, or has it been so long that they're just going to reboot Dredd again? Because it'll happen. There will be some new Dredd something within the next 15 years. Mark my words. But anyway, this one's really good. Karl Urban is fantastic in this. A lot of actors wouldn't have the commitment to keep the mask on the whole movie and only act from the nose down or whatever. But he does it. He does a great job. Him and Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy was known as the mask guy because he did Bane, and then he did Dunkirk where he had the thing over his face the whole time, and then one or two other movies where his face was covered the whole time. Karl Urban pulls that off here. Lena Headey, great villain role in this. I think this predates her time on Game of Thrones, or was always around that same time. The slow-mo sequences in this are, of course, standout. It's pretty crazy that we have not seen slow-mo executed this way to this level since Dredd, and it's been a lot of years. And, feasibly, you'd think that the slow-mo tech has continued to improve. I'm sure it has. So it's weird that another action movie hasn't really made use of it. But it helps in this case that there's a plot reason for it. It's tied to the drug that they're all taking. So not only is it cool, it's also motivated in universe. It's just an all-around really solid film. I don't think it goes to A. I think I'd put it in B. It's a really good action movie. B tier. Good time. Check it out if you haven't seen this one. Okay, next up is one of Alex Garland's video games. This is DMC, aka Devil May Cry, but it was the reboot that they did where they kind of reset the canon, but then they ended up undoing it because I think this one did not sell well, was not popular, and then they actually went back to the old canon. They put out Devil May Cry 1 through 4, and then they did this a reboot, and then they went back and did Devil May Cry 5 after this. And they went back to the old Dante. It's the same lead character in this reboot as the other ones, but they made him look like an emo band member guy. They changed his hair, and they even insult the white hair of the other guy, which everyone found that pretty cringy, myself included. The energy that this one radiates is it's too angsty. I mean, I gotta say, Garland is a great writer, but the writing is definitely the weakest part of this video game because the gameplay is solid. It's classic Devil May Cry gameplay, but it's punchy. There's a good variety to your moveset and your weapon choices, and they all feel good to use. There's platforming that's kind of mid, but it always is in the Devil May Cry games, so we won't really hold that against them. But yeah, Garland's writing is the weak point here. Honestly, you can overlook it. It's still a fun game. It's not one of the better Devil May Cry games, but it's not the black sheep of the franchise. It's better than Devil May Cry 2 from everything that I've heard. I have not touched Devil May Cry 2, and I won't. But this is totally playable and enjoyable. I think it's a C, honestly. That's maybe more generous than some people would be with it, but it's fine. It's not bad at all. Next up, let's grab his other video game. This one I wanted to mention briefly, but I don't think I'm actually going to rank it because I didn't play enough of this one to give it an accurate score. But I just wanted to include it because I have played a little bit of it back close to when it came out. If you can't read that title, it's called Enslaved Odyssey to the West. And it's kind of a riff on the Journey to the West thing, that classic story from Chinese mythology, or that's pulling from Chinese mythology. That's a story that's been told a million times, including most recently in that Black Myth Wukong game, which was much more popular than this one. I don't know how popular this one was when it came out. I know it was a really big budgeted game at the time, because like Garland was not the only like Hollywood talent involved. There's like a big, expensive voice cast and all kinds of stuff. The gameplay kind of mashes up like a hack and slash kind of thing, not unlike Devil May Cry, but definitely slower and less flashy. With, from what I remember, like the climbing of like an Uncharted game, that kind of feeling. I remember it just being kind of like slow and clunky and not all that engaging on a gameplay level. I can't really speak to the story because it's been so long. That's part of why I'm not ranking it here, and because I didn't play all that much. But it is a game that I'm interested in returning to. So I'm going to delete that from the list, but I wanted to just mention it briefly. Moving on to Ex Machina. This was Alex Garland's first spin in the director's chair after making quite a name for himself as a screenwriter over the years. And he came out swinging. It does not feel like someone's first directorial effort. It feels like a seasoned pro taking another trip around the block, if you know what I mean. It's slick, it's sharp, it's very contained again, just like Dredd. Maybe because it was his first directorial film, but it doesn't feel held back in any way. I was going to say any other way, but the contained nature of this is not at all a drawback to it. It's a great sci-fi concept, really well explored, with excellent performances all around. I love Donald Gleason and Oscar Isaac. Alicia Vikander, I haven't seen her anything outside of this, I don't think, except for like parts of like The Danish Girl and whatever, which is fucking terrible. But she's good in this. She's quite good in this. Also, I think her name is Sonoya Mizuno, who would later go on to be the star of his show Devs, which is really cool. I'll talk about that again later on. Ex Machina, really, really good. This was also like a big film for, I feel like A24, if I'm getting my timeline right, when people were like first starting to take note of A24 having like a stellar track record. At that point in time, it's gone a little downhill, but Ex Machina, it's like a B+. I think I'll round up to A for Ex Machina. But it's closer to a B, and 28 Days Later is closer to an S, if I was doing like half tiers, which I am not. Next up is Men. This is such a divisive film, and I really don't know why. I'm so confused at why this didn't land better than it did for people. I love this movie. I think this is a fantastic horror film that is so fun. Lots of creativity, lots of like inventive ideas, great soundtrack, that like whistling a cappella based soundtrack, great use of an actor in multiple roles, that Rory Kinnear guy playing ostensibly everyone outside of Jessie Buckley and her boyfriend from the beginning, to great effect. It is so fun. Really great horror set pieces whenever like the horror moments kick off, and then a fantastic ending that really swings for the fences. It's kind of an idea that you can see in movies like Gozu, like weirdo extreme Japanese horror movies. You can find some of the ideas in there, but to see it in an American made movie is a little more rare. Actually, I guess this is British, not really American made, but it's still A24, an American company. Men is great. I don't know why people didn't like it. I don't understand why, which I'll probably be saying about a couple of his other movies. I think this is excellent. I think it's another A-tier movie. I like it more than Ex Machina. I think I'm going to move Ex Machina down to a B, because I feel like Men and 28 Days Later are a little closer in quality than Ex Machina. But I don't think either of them quite get to the S tier either. Okay, next up is Civil War. I mean, hey, if Men was divisive, Civil War is next level divisive. And again, I don't really know why so many people didn't like it. I think it's great. I think it's, on one level, just really, really well made. Civil War is so well directed, like the way that like all the violence is handled, the gunplay, so well done. Killer soundtrack, by the way. I'm working on a video essay about the band Silver Apples, and I was writing that video essay, and then I went to see Civil War in the theater, and like the first needle drop in the movie is Silver Apples, a band that I don't think had ever been featured in a movie before. So yeah, really well made film on that level. It's also cool that pretty much the entire cast of Devs is in Civil War, which is fun. I like when directors work with the same actors repeatedly. I think that's fun. And I think Alex Garland is like only just starting to amass his like stable of actors, but still he's not even like doing it that much, because I don't think there's any actors shared between Civil War and warfare, even though they have a lot in common. The annoying thing about Civil War is really just the discourse surrounding it. The fact that so many people are refusing to engage with this film on an intellectual level. Like, no one is willing to interpret this film or just take a moment to think about what it's saying. It feels like people went in expecting it to say this particular thing, which the movie is not aiming to say. And since the movie didn't say what they expected it to say, to them that meant it said nothing. But it isn't saying nothing. It's saying a lot. It's saying so much. Oh, and it's also not like this centrist thing. Like, I guess in some interviews, Alex Garland maybe comes off a little centrist, but I think that's more just to do with, like, him trying to not, reduce the potential audience of the movie, since it's a big budget movie and he needs as many people to see it as possible. I think really he's trying to do the David Lynch thing of, like, not commenting on it, but he's just maybe not quite as slick as David Lynch was with the whole just refusing to answer questions about his movies. So maybe he could take a page out of Lynch's book on that and the way that he, answers interview questions. But this is such a, like, politically progressive and kind of, like, incendiary kind of social commentary packed movie. It's just not taking, like, the easy route. Like, that's what people are mad that it doesn't say, is, like, the stuff that's, like, easy and obvious. It's like, you don't need a movie to, say what's obvious back at you. That's pandering, And this movie is not pandering. It doesn't take the easy choices. Yeah, maybe more to say on this in time. Stay tuned over on the main channel, Brickwall Pictures, to hear more on that. Civil War, I think, is another A. I think so. Again, probably more like a B+, but I do think it's better than Ex Machina, so I'm going to round up to A. Okay, next up is Sunshine. Sunshine I actually only saw recently when I was getting ready to make this tier list. For whatever reason, like, it had been on my radar, but I just kind of never got around to watching it. It's another collaboration with Danny Boyle. It's like a sci-fi horror deal. Like, it's very much up my alley. And I love the cast. Not just Cillian Murphy, but, like, Michelle Yeoh's in there. She's great. She's always great. Getting to it now recently in 2025. I thought it was pretty good, but not one of his best. I think I'm going to put it in C. It stays interesting throughout, but it falls into a problem that some other sci-fi things do, where the, like, overarching narrative feels perhaps a little too vague. Like, it has big ideas and it has big moments, but it doesn't have, like, the strongest narrative through line. It gets there, but there's a little bit too much of, like, here's a problem, now we're going to solve that problem, and now here's a different unrelated problem, we're going to solve that one. Here's another completely unrelated problem, we're going to solve that one. And then, so it feels a little segmented in that way. Now, there is a consistent driving force behind it, so it makes it better than something like, I don't know, the first half of Alien Covenant or whatever, which really had that problem to an extreme. But it's still a little bit of an issue here. The narrative is, I like the tonal changes it does. Like, it's, like, not really a horror movie throughout a lot of it, but it definitely is in the third act, and I like that kind of shift. It becomes like a haunted house slasher in the latter stages, where there's that guy going around murdering people. And it's fun. It's a good time, but it kind of just doesn't hold together in that cohesive way that the rest of his movies do. But it is still very fun. It moves briskly. It's a good cast. So I think it's a C. It's still worth watching. Next up is Annihilation. This movie... So unlike Men and Civil War, I think most people like Annihilation, but it still failed miserably at the box office, and you can blame that squarely on the studio, which I think was Sony in this case. They not just, like, botched the rollout of this movie, they full-on sabotaged it. This thing, maybe it had, like, a limited theatrical release, but they mostly just dumped it on, like, VOD. They, like, let this movie die, even though it's, like, it's got Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac and, like, all these big names attached. They totally sabotaged this movie. And it's a damn shame, because I don't know if this is a controversial take or not, but I think Annihilation is the best thing Alex Garland has made. It's the only one that I would put in the S tier. I mean, spoilers for the other two. But it gets the S tier, like, fully. Really, really good stuff. This film, fantastic sci-fi ideas, excellent world building, and such, like, a masterful grasp of tone. The way that it moves between, like, intrigue into suspense, into outright horror, into, like, cosmic horror. Like, it's just so, it so deftly handles all of its themes. And I will say it is segmented in a sense, like Sunshine is, but it just holds together more in Annihilation. I think because of the whole like world building angle, like because of that the shimmer, I think they call it. The rules of that world are so fun to unravel and pick apart. I don't know if I necessarily want a sequel to. I mean, I'd welcome a sequel to it if Garland was still involved. But it almost felt like it could have worked as like a miniseries, kind of like Devs, or as just like a longer movie, like a Scorsese-length movie. I don't know. I just wanted more of this world, more of the shimmer, more of exploring that. Excellent soundtrack, by the way. It definitely took some cues from Mika Levy, who did Under the Skin. It almost feels like a rip-off of that music. Like, I guarantee Alex Garland went to the composer of this, who was not Mika Levy, and was like, give me something that sounds like this. And he showed the Under the Skin score. But it's really good regardless. Excellent ending, entire third act. The whole thing is just phenomenal. I wanted more of it. I went and tried to read the book after this. I say tried to, like it was a challenge. I picked up the book from a library and I read a little bit of it. And it did not grab me in anywhere near the same way as the film did. I might give the book another shot in the future because, I mean, since I wanted more of the movie, that book is part of a whole trilogy, so there's more to the story there. But I know Garland said that when he wrote his adapted screenplay, he didn't reread the book. He just wrote the screenplay based on his like memory of the movie, which is really interesting. It actually kind of ties into Warfare with the whole everything is based on memory thing. That's an interesting kind of through line that I guess his work has that I hadn't thought about. Anyway, I love Annihilation. If you missed it, because it is a little more under the radar because of that botched release, go check out Annihilation. It's phenomenal. Next up is Devs. This one is that miniseries. He did it in collaboration with Hulu and FX, since FX and Hulu have that partnership going on. It's another sci-fi story. And it's a big story. It earns its runtime as a limited series. You cannot fit this thing into a feature film. And unlike so many TV projects that come out these days, it does not feel stretched out. It doesn't feel like, oh, this would be better as like a 90-minute movie or a 2-hour movie. This thing earns every episode of its runtime. I think it's like the perfect length for what it is. Now, I will say, it has some things that hold it back. One is like there's some really bad CG in there, which you can mostly overlook, but it does kind of ruin one really emotional moment, or like what would be an emotional moment. The CG is like really distractingly bad, so it does get in the way there. And also the ending is pretty contentious. I know some people get to the ending and they think it like ruins the whole show. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think it doesn't quite stick the landing. It's very interesting. It's an ending that like demands analysis to understand. Even on like the most basic level, you need to like sit and think about it. And then it's a thing where like you'll probably get more out of it the more you like sit with it and interpret it. I don't know if it's quite the right ending for it. It made me want to rewatch the whole series, which I might do soon actually. But aside from those couple of hiccups, and again the ending, I'm not even sure how I feel about it really after a first watch. Like that's how big of a swing it is, let's say. But otherwise, excellent show, excellent miniseries. One of the only miniseries in recent years that has like fully captivated me that isn't made by David Simon of The Wire fame. His shows always do that to me. A lot of modern TV, like miniseries especially, they kind of don't grab me and they don't feel like they earn their length. This one does, full of such big ideas, really well explored. I think it's an A. And this one I think might go up to an S on a rewatch, possibly, depending on how the ending changes things for me. And next up is Warfare. Finally, we get to Warfare, the one that is currently in theaters at the time of recording. Warfare was like such a surprise because as Civil War was still in theaters, Alex Garland was like, oh, I'm going on hiatus or whatever. And then there was stuff where like some outlet reported that he was retiring, and then he came out and said, I'm not retiring. They took my words out of context, but I am going on like hiatus indefinitely or something like that. And then boom, Warfare's already out in like record time. And he has 28 years later coming out as well. So, like, I don't know. I didn't really believe he would actually be on a hiatus to begin with, but I didn't think it'd be that short. I did think he'd take a little bit of a break. Anyway, Warfare is complicated because when it was first announced, the thing is, it seems like a movie that it isn't. It seems like it's going to be one of these pro-America, like, oorah, like, fuck yeah, America kind of movies, like a Black Hawk Down kind of movie, like a Saving Private Ryan kind of movie, but for for like a more modern age. And it's luckily not that. I was like worried that it would be that going in. I had faith in Alex Garland because for some reason a lot of people seem to turn on him with these last couple of movies. I guess ever since Men, but especially with Civil War and now continuing into Warfare, which these are kind of like a two-hander. Because also Civil War, the like military advisor on that was this guy Ray Mendoza, who is Garland's co-writer and co-director on this one. And it's based on Ray Mendoza's like memories of the event. And actually not just his, but also the other people in his squad. It's a very contained film. It's all set in like one house. Actually, I guess they start somewhere else and move into the house, but it's mostly in that one location. So yeah, a lot of people seem to like kind of turn on Garland with his last couple of movies. And so I could understand a lot of the skepticism around Warfare if you're coming from that perspective, because I was skeptical of it too, and I still had like faith in him that he would be subverting expectations, doing something a little bit differently. And that's definitely what Warfare is. It is subverting what it, like it's not what it doesn't do what it says on the tin, right? You can't judge this book by its cover. You have to like actually think about it. It sounds stupid, but you have to think about the movie. If you think about the movie, you'll get what it's saying. Just think a little bit, but just don't go in like, try not to go in with like preconceived notions. Or you can go in with those preconceived notions, just don't be like locked into them. Don't go in like with blinders on. You know, give the movie the chance to say what it's saying and not what you expect it to say, not what you're thinking it's going to say as you go in, like a lot of people did with Civil War. Because Warfare is not saying what it seems like from the outset. I'll talk about this more, because we're going to do a full review for this, Gray and I. Hopefully pretty soon. Hopefully we can get that out before the movie is like out of theaters, or at least before it's too long gone. So a lot more to say about Warfare. I think it's a B, is where it's going on the tier list. It's a strong B. So Garland really clustered up top. Unlike a lot of tier lists I do, where there's like a big spread, he's clustered up here. I guess Sunshine is his weakest movie to me, weirdly. But I think for a lot of people, it would be like one of these three would be a whole lot lower. This is where Garland lands for me. I think he's solid. He's dependable. I don't think he like fell off. I think he's like as sharp as he ever was. Like, you know, evidenced by his new movies being aligned with like, you know, his undisputed classic. Like, I don't think anyone really trashes 28 Days Later or, you know, Ex Machina really. So I don't know. I think he's as solid and dependable as ever. Like I said, more to say about Warfare. And I reckon that there's going to be quite a lot of discussion about Civil War also in our Warfare review. So stay tuned for that. That should be coming out right on this channel. So subscribe so you don't miss that. You can check out more tier lists if you feel like it, or just other videos on this channel. I'll see you next time. So long.